Hello, YouTube, Facebook, wherever else you might be watching this video. My name is Kara-Leah and I wanted to share on emotional intimacy today. I was hanging out with one of my male friends yesterday and we were discussing his past relationships and a pattern that he'd been observing where the women that he was interested in weren't emotionally available. And of course, when this happens, one of the first questions to ask yourself is, am I emotionally available? And so we were exploring that, and then he suddenly said, what does it mean to be emotionally intimate? Well, I don't even know what that feels like. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's a really good question. And I realized that if he was unsure about what it felt like to be emotionally intimate with someone, then there's probably other people. So we're here now to discuss this. So emotional intimacy, what is it, and how do you know if you are being it? The first thing to recognize is that in order to be emotionally intimate with someone else, you have to be emotionally intimate with yourself. And what that means is that you have to have a sense of your own emotional landscape. How do you feel, like moment to moment? Do you know that? Are you aware of that? And so, even as you're listening to this video right now, just allow yourself to take a few deep breaths, like really feeling the breath in your body. And noticing when you breathe, can you feel the breath in your body? Can you feel the breath in your nostrils? Can you feel the breath entering into your body? Maybe the back of the throat, maybe the neck area. Bringing your attention and your awareness internal to your felt sense. And this is really the first step towards emotionally becoming intimate with oneself, is that you've got to be able to tune in and see, how am I feeling in this moment? How am I physically feeling in this moment? Hence attuning to the physical sense of the breath in the body. And then once you can feel yourself physically in the moment, how am I emotionally feeling? What's there? Recognizing that for many of us, we have a lifetime habit of avoiding, distracting, denying, repressing, suppressing, and running away from our emotional landscape, because we've often been shamed as children for feeling what we feel, and so we've learned that our feelings are unacceptable, that it's not okay to feel the way we feel. So there's work that needs to be done quite often to learn how to feel. And what can happen is we can be disassociated, right? Disassociated means we're almost like outside of our own body. Or we can be in the mind, which means we're within our field, but we're completely in our thinking head, just thinking. Or we're embodied. And when we're embodied, that is where we start to get in touch with and can feel from the inside out our emotional landscape. So if you are realizing from watching this video that you may not be embodied, right? You can't feel your body from the inside out, or you may not be in touch with your own emotional landscape, what I would suggest doing is starting to do some embodiment practices, which would be physical yoga, asana, dance, martial arts, anything that basically gets you into a felt sense of the body, being able to feel what it means to be a human being, right? And once that occurs, you're more likely to then be able to get in touch with your emotional landscape, to be able to know what you feel when you're feeling it. Recognizing that our defense mechanisms, which are often put in place when we're kids and they run spontaneously until they don't anymore, if there's a strong feeling that comes up, one of those defense mechanisms likely kicks in and prevents us from feeling the feeling, okay? So you have to dismantle that bit by bit, piece by piece. So embodiment practices are a good start. And then the second thing to do is to use inquiry, to simply ask yourself questions. So what that can look like is, say something's going down and you recognize, I don't even know how I'm feeling about that, is to pause, tune into your breath, feel your body, like get embodied, and then ask, how do I feel about this? And just pause, wait, and get a sense. And you may notice a feeling start to come up, and you may notice too a defense mechanism cut in to prevent yourself from feeling. So you need to keep attuning to the feeling, to the felt sense. So embodiment and then inquiry will help you start to get in touch with your own emotional landscape. Other tools can be really useful as well, like journaling. I mean, I've gone through this journey myself. I was completely disassociated and then used yoga as an embodiment tool. And then I used writing and articles as a way to get deeper into my emotional landscape and to attune to and understand what I was feeling. And in time, this becomes automatic and easy for you to do. You start to know how you feel. What I've noticed though is often I still don't know how I feel until I begin to communicate it. So this is the third piece, right? You've got your embodiment, you've got your inquiry, which may include journaling, those kind of practices. This third bit is practice with other people, where basically you just have to start communicating with people in a safe space to find out how you do feel. This is exploratory conversation. This is talking about what's going on whilst feeling it. And that's really important because it's quite easy to be in a conversation with someone with both of you in your heads, both of you in your minds, talking about shit, which doesn't allow you to connect with your emotional landscape, to feel what you're feeling, and then to communicate from that space. So if you're going to have an exploratory conversation with a friend that is awesome and safe, that you can communicate with, that you can be vulnerable in front of, you need to be embodied. You need to do that work first, get embodied, and then just start to explore how you might be feeling. And to me, it almost feels like a spiral. It's like talking about the thing, and spiraling down. Oh, it's getting sunny out there. We're getting way too light. Hang on, let's see if I can adjust the light. Ooh, gone the other direction. Trying to find the light in a good place here. Fuck it, we'll leave it at that. Oh, bit dark. Yeah, so when you're talking to the person, it's like a sense of spiraling down to feel what's there. And this can feel really scary. So this is the third point to be really aware of, that feeling your feelings and then sharing them with other people can feel inherently unsafe, particularly if we were shamed as children. And in order to then do it, you have to lean into the fear. And it's really useful to create safe spaces, right? Safe friends that you can do this kind of exploration with. For me, I had a male friend, like I had identified that I kept attracting emotionally unavailable men. And so I was doing this inquiry myself, and I had a male friend called Pete, who's freaking amazing. Love you, Pete. And he enabled me to practice being emotionally vulnerable with a man in a safe way, because we were just friends. There was no romantic involvement. And like I remember one time in particular when he called and I was in a really challenging place. I was crying, I was upset. I didn't want to be seen like that. I didn't want anyone to know I was in that space. But he called a couple of times and I recognized that I was avoiding being emotionally intimate with him. I was avoiding connecting. I was avoiding letting him see me where I truly was. So I forced myself, I made myself pick up the phone and answer. And there I was, a crying mess of a woman, all teary. And he just met me. He just held me in that space. And I realized that there are people it's safe to be emotional with. There are people it's safe to be vulnerable with. And that I realized as an adult, I'm capable of discerning who it's safe to be vulnerable with, who I can share my innermost heart with. And so with Pete, I really began to practice leaning in and sharing my open, vulnerable heart, so that when I then got into a relationship with a man, I was able to already lean into that and feel safe being vulnerable. So practicing with a friend and dialing down and talking about it, and your friend can guide you and say, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? And allowing yourself to spontaneously express what is there. Recognizing that so often in conversation, particularly with our loved ones, we will control and manage. We will script what we're going to say about shit so that we can avoid getting too close up and personal. And so a big part of this practice is to drop into the spontaneous free flow. Another tool that's really helped me with connecting from a more vulnerable and intimate space with people, friends and lovers, is voice messaging. I find voice messages so useful because when I voice message, I feel like I've got space and time and freedom to share what's in my heart. And often I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't often know what I am actually feeling until I begin the sharing process. And then through speaking it out, it becomes obvious. And that's scary because it's like, I'm bearing my heart here. but I can send that voice message, and whoever I'm sending it to, they'll receive the message, they've got time to listen and then time to formulate an answer, and then they'll respond. And it's less confronting and less challenging than sharing that stuff in conversation. And I found this really useful when navigating delicate topics with my partner, for example. It's like I get too scared to like tell him in person or to tell him on the phone, but I'm okay, I can do it in a voice message. So I'll bare my heart with him in a voice message, and then he finds it, so he feels so safe because I'm emotionally vulnerable with him. And because of that, I feel how he feels safe when I'm emotionally vulnerable and true with him, which then inspires me to lean in and do it more. So it's this positive feedback loop. Now, that's a little guide on how to become more emotionally intimate. One, you need to become emotionally, man, that sun just keeps coming and going, coming and going. You need to become more emotionally intimate with yourself. You need to get to know your own emotional landscape, and that comes about through embodiment, through inquiry, and through exploring your emotional landscape through journaling or writing, and exploring your emotional landscape in conversation with friends that you feel safe with. Once that's done, once you've done that and you really get to know yourself, then you're capable of starting to be emotionally intimate with a partner or with friends, and you'll know that that's happening because it does feel a little scary and it feels vulnerable, it feels raw, it feels like you are exposing yourself, and it can feel unsafe because of that. But when you're doing it with someone who cares about you, who loves you, who respects you, who honors you, they will hold that space for you, and they will be so grateful that you have honored them, really, with sharing your precious heart with them. And what you'll find is you'll know that you've been emotionally intimate because of the rawness, and also because of the sense of connection and the way the other person responds. So if you're not sure that you understand what emotional intimacy is, you're not sure how to be emotionally intimate, my suggestion with you is to start to explore your own emotional landscape through inquiry and through journaling or writing of some description. And then second, to begin to explore your emotional landscape with trusted friends, where you can get into the practice of spontaneously saying whatever is in your heart and trusting that it will be okay. And then through that, you will be far more equipped to be able to be emotionally intimate with a partner. And you'll know that that is happening because through being emotionally intimate, there will be a greater sense of connection and a vibe. It's just like, there's such a beautiful feeling that comes through. Okay, so my name's Kara-Leah. I'm a non-dual teacher influenced primarily by classical Tantra. And I think that's all I need to say. Big love to you all, and thank you so much to my male friend who's inspired this video. I love the way you show up. I love the way it feels hanging out with you, and I wish you all the best on your future relationships.